I'm an Air Force airman. I am a bow hunter. I am a fisherman. I am Mark of all trades.
Broadheads. This isn't the number one thing on most bow hunters' mind whenever they enter the woods. Bow hunters want an elite broadhead that will stay the course and shoot true. There's plenty of broadheads on the market today. How do you decide which one's right for you? Will you shoot mechanical or will you shoot fixed heads? Not only that, but you have to consider what grain are you going to shoot. That's a lot to consider. Another pillar to think about is price point. Some can go as high as $50, $60. Which one do you pick? I had an outdoor company, Fiocchi, reach out to me and ask me to review their broadheads. So today I'm going to be reviewing the Feyachi OTW hunting broadheads. On Amazon they sell a 6-pack for $29.99. It comes with a broadhead portable plastic carrying case, and it's a fixed head 3-sided stainless steel broadhead. The cutting diameter on this is 1 1/8 inches. For the review of these broadheads, I wanted to come up with 2 different scenarios, one being a shot through the lungs or a flesh wound, and then another being a shoulder shot or some kind of a shot that would go through a bone. So the 2 ways that I thought of this is one shot through a cantaloupe to simulate the lungs or the flesh, and another one as the coconut to maybe be a shoulder shot. So here you can kind of see where it went into right here, and that's a pretty good hole. I think you can see like that's a big slot right there. So it definitely made a big cut in there. So that's a good slice. So now we're gonna take the coconut and see what that does next. You guys can let me know in the comments if you would have done something else different, or maybe you want me to test it against something else. Here's how the broadhead held up after going through the cantaloupe. So pretty good. Most of it's just muck from the ground. So you can see here, I think it bounced off, and we were having a bet on whether or not it would bounce off or go straight through. So we'll have to go back and take a look at the footage and see, but this looks like it might have just bounced off of the coconut. Well, I'm pretty sure I hit it right on because it broke the arrow. So I think it was just too much force in it. So it's almost like I wanted to use the coconut as a representation of like hitting the shoulder on an animal, whether that be a deer or an elk or a moose. And I think just the sheer force of it was just too much, and the broadhead went with it. So I'm fairly certain I hit it, even a quarter of it, and it just bounced off, and it was too much impact for the arrow, or the bolt. So you guys saw the results of that. It definitely cut the cantaloupe super well. It went right through it. Nice cutting diameter in there. But with the coconut, it didn't have the same effect as the cantaloupe, as you can see in the results. I wanted to go over the pros and cons of this broadhead. So I think the pros would definitely be the price point. You can't beat getting 6 broadheads for $30. That's a super good deal. And for me personally, I like shooting fixed heads. Mechanicals just isn't my thing. But I think that this is a great price for what you're getting. And then on top of that, it comes with a carrying case. And the case is super nice because I know some guys just put them on their arrows and just throw them into their bag or into their bow case. So it's nice to be able to have some place to store them, and you can kind of put them away if you need to. The other thing that's nice is the stainless steel aspect of it. Not to go too cheap to just put regular metal, and they went with the stainless steel, so that's really nice as well. So as far as the cons go, I think the first thing that I would have to say is that there's a little bit of a problem getting the broadhead all the way to the end of the insert. So I tried it on my bolt, and I also tried it on a regular arrow that goes through a compound bow. I just had a little bit of trouble getting the broadhead all the way down to the insert to where it had a flush seat. And I think just another con is maybe if they made the broadhead just a little bit bigger, just for the cutting diameter. Like if you look at some of the bigger broadheads in the industry, they have a bigger cutting diameter than 1.125". And so whenever you make a questionable shot, it's always nicer to have that bigger hole, possibly, so that you can put a more humane shot on the animal and that they'll have less suffering. It's always nicer to have a bigger hole, cutting hole or diameter, whenever you're bow hunting animals, because ultimately if you make a little bit of a off shot on the animal, it's more likely that you're going to recover the animal with a bigger hole that you've made. So I did want to show you the results of the broadhead. And you can kind of see that it broke off there just a little bit, but for the most part, the broadhead's still intact. So that's the results of my test that I put the broadheads through. Again, if you have any ideas of how I could have done it differently, definitely let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see your thoughts on that. But I think as far as the Fiocchi broadheads go, I personally would use these for if I was going bow hunting for rabbit or squirrel or something along the small game. I think for the deer hunting that I do, I would need, like I said earlier, a bigger cutting diameter, because I want to better increase the odds if I make an off shot. So I think these would be good broadheads if you're doing small game or anything along that. There you have it, guys. That was my test of these broadheads. If you guys have like a different scenario set up that maybe you've done before and it works really well, definitely let me know, because I'm curious to see how that worked out for you guys, and maybe I can try it in the future. I think these broadheads definitely have their pros and cons, just like anything. And I think for me personally, I like a bigger cutting diameter whenever I'm bow hunting for deer. But I do think that these broadheads would be really good for any kind of small game, whether you're doing, squirrel on the ground, rabbits, groundhogs, whatever you're doing like that. I think these broadheads would be really good for that. But for deer hunting, I think I'm going to stick to a little bit of a bigger diameter, cutting diameter. And so yeah. But if you guys are interested in these Feyachi broadheads, I'll put a link in the description below so you can check them out. Again, for $30, you get 6 broadheads and the nice case. So if you guys like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below, and I'll check you in the next video.